What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to the DFS Picks and Prediction Show. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, where me, Weezy, Luke, and MMA Monk break down the upcoming card from a DFS perspective and give our predictions on the fight as well. Also, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, so you don't miss out on all the other content here on Pub Sports. And as always, we're going to go back and forth talking our fights to target, fight to fade, fighter to fade, favorite dog, favorite GPP play, favorite cash play, favorite value play, favorite dart throw. We'll go over our lineups from 2 weeks ago. We'll talk about the standings. We'll talk about who won last time. We'll talk about the current standings of the year. And then other than that, we'll answer any questions and we'll head out of here. Before we get started, like I say, if you guys can leave a like, that'd be much, much appreciated. Subscribe. And if you have not already, Pub Sports is sponsored by Prize Picks. Go check out Prize Picks and use promo code Pub Sports for a deposit bonus. Again, that is Pub Sports. I think we'll start talking about some Prize Picks throughout the show just a little bit. So use promo code Pub Sports. So, Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward for this banger of a card?
Yeah, 273 is such a great card from top to bottom. Really great fights. Some debuting fighters, some real studs, some title fights. We got a little bit of everything here. And we've got some really interesting angles to explore from a Draftkings perspective, too. So I can't wait to break it down with you guys.
Can't wait. Monk, what is up? You looking forward to it?
What's up, guys? Yeah, I had a nice week off that was much needed, but I am very anxious to get back into some fights. And we have some absolute bangers this week, especially the top three fights. Man, I am stoked.
As am I. And then last but not least, we have Luke. Luke, you looking forward to the card?
Yeah, I'm kind of with everybody. It was nice to have a bit of a week off. Always nice to recharge the batteries, get back after it. And obviously, we're coming back to a solid pay-per-view slate here with a lot of fights projected to end ITD. So, yeah, looking forward to get into it from a DraftKings perspective.
Let's do it. So, do want to shout out the chat before we get started. I have a couple in here. We have Lou Betcha, the man, very excited for Kay Hansen Fight Week. Lou, we have so many great fights on this card, and the one you are excited for is Kay Hansen. That is not good, but what is up, Lou? Thanks for hanging out. We got Robert saying, what is up, gangsters? What is up, Robert? How you doing? But we're going to go to our first section here. We're going to go to the fight to target, and honestly, like there's a ton of options here. I'm curious to hear some of the options you guys have. Weezy, we'll start with you. What is your favorite fight to target for this card?
So for me, it's going to be Anthony Hernandez versus Josh Fremd. This is a really fun fight. It's going to be really fun to watch. And both these guys are fantastic finishers. Fremd is taking the fight on short notice, and Hernandez really pushes a sick pace when he fights. Hernandez is averaging 4.65 raw DraftKings points per minute, and he allows 4.11. So I mean, this is the exact kind of fighter that you always want to target, whether it's his opponent or him. It's going to be a very high-paced, high-volume fight with a very high probability of finishing, like almost 80% according to the books. So it's a great fight to target. In addition to all those little pieces of information that I gave you, there's a lot of really highly priced fighters on this card, and Hernandez is sitting there at 8,700, and Fremd, I mean, what, 74 or 75? Yeah. He's definitely a good option as well. But I'm really heavy on Hernandez this week, and I think that's probably going to be one of the highest scoring fights of the week.
Sounds good. For me, I'm going to get a little bit weird here. I'm going to go Alexey, Oleynik, Jared, Vanderaa. I personally think Oleynik takes down Vanderaa and submits him in the first round, and they're both priced at 8,100. And I'm curious, Monk, you have a ton of information about salaries. What is the information you have about the 8,100 salary? Do you have anything about that?
Well, Brady, I am glad you asked. 8,100 has not been used a ton. Obviously, it's been used 11 times since January 1st, 2021. Someone from that salary has made the optimal lineup 4 times. Now, usually when it's used, they're obviously paired together, which is the case here. I mean, 2/3 of the time when the $8,100 salary wins, it makes the optimal lineup. So a very small sample size, but a very good salary as far as that goes.
Thank you, Monk. Thank you. Yeah, but 8,100, I feel like the winner has a really good chance to score well. It's minus 375. I see a minus 400. Fight doesn't go to decision. I think it's probably a Oleynik sub or a Vanderaa knockout at some point. So I think the winner has a very good chance of finding the optimal lineup. And again, I really do like those salaries. Weezy, I already talked to you, but we'll go to Monk. What is your favorite fight to target?
Well, you guys nailed both of the ones. I thought I was sneaky with Anthony Hernandez, and then I thought I was even sneakier with Oleynik. So the Hernandez fight, I mean, 4 of his fights have finished, 2 wins, 2 losses. Fantastic pick, Uncle Weezy. So I will talk about some stats for the Oleynik fight super quick. And Jared Vanderaa, Oleynik, when he wins, over 8 wins, 103.93 points. When he loses, he gives up 103.94 points. So I mean, tons of points flying around Alexey Oleynik fights, 3.81 points a minute. He is 400. The shitty thing about this fight is they're both 8,100. I kind of thought when they didn't put the salaries out at first that they would do this. Oleynik is $458 above his average salary. Jared Vanderaa, $800 above his average salary. So you have to pay up for both of these guys. Personally, I'm on the Oleynik side with Weezy, and it sounds like Brady as well. I'm hoping for an early finish from my favorite nickname, get the mountain out of here, the walking concussion, Jared Vanderaa. Shout out Uncle Weezy for that one. I didn't come up with that myself.
Shout out to Brady for that one. I stole it from Brady.
Nice.
I'm using it as if it's my own, but it was Brady
and now
who came up with the walking concussion.
Well, either way, somebody on this panel is a fucking genius, so I love it. But either way, when Oleynik finishes well over 100 points, I love the finish potential here. The only problem is if he doesn't finish, it's going to be a super sloppy, 3-round ugly slobber knocker, as they say. So that's the risk you're taking. But I will be on this fight to target for sure in a couple of my lineups.
Yeah, man, that fight, I mean, it's crazy. You have Oleynik with 47 submissions, and you have Vanderaa with 47 concussions. It's just an intriguing matchup.
Crazy
Luke,
how those numbers match up sometimes.
I know. Luke, what are you thinking for a fight to target here?
Yeah, I'm not getting sneaky with it. I'm going Hernandez and Fremd as well. Best inside the distance line on the slate, roughly 85% implied to finish in 22 combined pro fights between both guys. Only 4 of their fights have hit the cards, and just kind of outside of the general track record, kind of Weezy referenced it a bit too, just based on the style dynamic. It's just going to force action. Fluffy's a guy who's pretty consistent to go forward, let his hands fly. In doing so, though, he's pretty susceptible. As his defense just really is no good, but at the same time, Fremd tends to not really move his head at all. He goes back in straight lines. And then you talk about the floor. Both guys have shown submission competency, both being very aggressive submission grapplers too, not necessarily position over submission guys. So you're going to see a lot of good attempts and scrambles on the floor, most likely. And then Weezy kind of touched on too, with this being a shorter notice fight for Fremd on 2 weeks notice. So you do have a cardio dynamic here, which usually forces a stronger, or I should say at least a higher paced first round from the guy who might not have 3 rounds of gas. So I'd just be pretty surprised to see this fight hit the cards. I see finish potential from both guys in both rounds. I'm obviously more so on the side of Fluffy, as it's not a great scenario necessarily for Fremd, but he's going to have opportunities to finish this fight as well too. So I think it's a great fight to target on both sides, especially in relation to the prices.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree. Should be a very fun fight. I do want to shout out the chat. We got Crime in here, Robert in the chat. We got Sean. Mr. Thank you all for hanging out. We're going to move on to our next section here. We have our fight to fade, and we will start with you, Monk. What is your fight to fade for this week?
Well, I will go ahead and take the obvious one then. Tecia Torres and Mackenzie Dern. I do like this fight as a viewer. I'm expecting Tecia Torres to probably win by decision. But as far as Draftkings go, I just don't like it. Torres averaging only 87.4 points per win, less than 3 points a minute. You do get a little bit of a break on her sheet. Her average salary is 8,200, so you're saving a bit here. Mackenzie Dern scores less than Torres per minute, 2.4 points, has a higher win percent or win rate, 92.89 points per win is what I'm trying to say, which is higher than Torres, meaning that she kind of relies on a finish with that low pace, 2.4 points per minute, but a higher win number. You kind of rely on a finish. I just don't think this one is going to finish. So I am excited to watch this one, but the numbers just aren't there for it from a DraftKings point. When Tecia Torres wins, only 3 of her 9 wins have scored over 90 points. So while being a very tiny tornado, which I do respect, she just does not score the greatest in DraftKings unless she's fighting Sam Hughes. If we get a Sam Hughes performance against Mackenzie Dern, then my goodness, she'll be my favorite fighter probably of the night. But until then, I'm just going to be fading this one in general. I just don't think the scores are going to be there.
Yep, sadly, Mackenzie Dern is not Sam Hughes, so I do agree with that. For me, I'm going to go with the other women's fight. There's 3 in the card. I'm going to go with the Pennington lad. It's plus 225. Fight doesn't go to decision. I do like Pennington to win, but there's no way I'm touching that price tag of 8,900. I'd much rather go up and get a Chimaev, Volkanovski, the studs up top. I'm not paying 8,900 for Pennington, who probably wins the decision, probably doesn't score too much. So I think that's a pretty easy fade for me, fading Pennington and lad. If anything, it'll probably be like a dart throw on lad. If she can get on top of Pennington, maybe she can finish her, but I'm more so on the Pennington side myself. So that's a fade for me. Luke, what fight are you fading for this week?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go a bit more contrarian. Obviously, we got a public pay-per-view slate here, so obviously I have some opportunities to be different, but I'm going Weeks and Garry. It does have the 5th best inside the distance line on the slate. Both guys are primary finishers, but both also appear to be pretty durable and competent defensive grapplers. Garry's never been finished, spanning 14 amateur and pro fights. Weeks has only been finished once, spanning 24 amateur and pro fights. So the large consensus is that Ian Garry is the second coming of Christ, but I'm not really convinced personally. And we have seen some money trickle in on anti-violence angles as well, in terms of the books having the fight priced only 60% implied to finish in certain spots as well. So I'd just be more apt to pay up for Volkanovski, Jan, or Chimaev in comparison to Garry. And I also think there are just more higher upside fires in that lower tier than Weeks. So yeah, I'm going to be very underweight to this fight.
Yeah, right there with you. It's really hard to get to Garry when you have the other 3 up top. Weezy, what is your fight to fade for this one?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Brady, on the Pennington lad fight. It feels like a safe one to fade in comparison to the other 2 women's fights, simply because of the salary construction of the other 2 fights. We have a very top-heavy card here. So fitting in somebody like Kay Hansen or Piera Rodriguez or Dern or Torres, when they're sitting between 8,300 and 7,900, all 4 of those fighters, I would much less likely fade that salary range than I would somebody like Pennington up at 8,900. She wins a lot of minutes on the cage, but that doesn't really translate to big DraftKings points. She's averaging less than 3 DraftKings points per minute, and Aspen Ladd isn't high volume enough. She doesn't get takedowns, and she's actually been hesitant to even shoot takedowns lately. Ladd shoots less than 2 takedown attempts per fight. So this one feels like a pretty safe one to fade. I think all 3 women's fights, potentially could be lower scoring than the men's fights, but it's the salary construction of the Ladd Pennington fight that would probably have that one the lowest down on the ladder for me.
Yep, I'm right there with you. We'll keep it going to our fighter to fade. We'll start with you, Luke. Who's your fighter to fade for this week?
Yeah, cop-out answer, obvious. I got to go up top with Rocky at 8.9. She's just way too expensive with only a 20% implied inside the distance line. She's put up a few good scores in the past, but just really isn't the type of fighter that I see being able to 10x, especially in this matchup. There's just so much more finish equity around her, and, Raz, Hernandez, Malat, all being cheaper, and then obviously your upper tier fighters above her. So Rocky's actually going to be a complete outright fade for me this week.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I mean, you take a look at her win. She has scored good, like against Jason. She scored really good against Renault, but she has 75 points against Khamzat, 71 against Aldana. Other than that, 78 against Tate, 77 against Phillips, 64 against Correa. I just don't think she scores high in a win, and I'd much rather play anyone around her. So, yeah, easy answer for me. Pennington's going to be a fade. Weezy, you have Pennington as well, or anybody else stick out to you?
No, I mean, I don't hurt me here. I love the Irish people. I respect the Irish people. I have nothing against Ian Garry, but I am going to be fading him this week. In fact, Ian Garry, he carried the Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week flag proudly for me against Jordan Williams, getting a last second knockout at the end of the first round, making me look like a champ, So it hurts me to say that I'm fading Ian this week, but I mean, come on. This is purely a price thing. Look at all the names around him, champions in 5-round fights, DK studs like Chimaev, Jan, Volk, plus Weeks is a wrestler, and it's hard to score lots of DraftKings points when you're stuffing takedowns for the whole fight. I like 9,000 plus options way better than Garry. So I think that he's the one above 9,000 that you got to fade. And then right there below 9,000 is 8,900 Pennington, another one that you got to fade too. So that's what I'm doing this week.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a ton of Garry or Pennington, but Sean does bring up a good point. That makes Garry contrarian. I don't think a ton of people at all are going to have Garry. So if he does go out there and start Tweaks in the first round, he's going to be very low owned. So yeah, I do agree though. I'm not going to have a ton. Monk, how about you? What is your fighter to fade?
I'm going to go with Julio Arce. First fight of the night, I believe, $9,000. I cannot believe this guy is $9,000 this week. That is $329 over his average salary. He has the second lowest pace on the entire card, 2.17 points a minute, averaging only 79.26 over his 4 UFC wins. I mean, his opponents score shitty too. Less than 2 points a minute is what he gives up. And when he loses, his opponents only score 75.84. I mean, the guy has exciting moments, 100%. His chin dex is 1.14. That number should be 0 if you've never been knocked down before. 1.14 is tremendously high. So a pretty suspect chin coming against a guy named Daniel Santos who, for the record to show, just kind of goes around and throws all kinds of crazy kicks constantly. I don't know what his cardio is like. Maybe one of you guys can help me out with that, but there is always a chance for Arce. He's so up and down. There's always a chance for him to get caught, especially by something crazy from a kickboxer. He has lost to some good names, Song Yadong, Hakeem Dawodu, and Shimon Moraes in his last 5 with wins over Julian Erosa and Andre Ewell. But in his wins, again, has not scored 90 points. In fact, in any of his wins, he has yet to score 90 points. He just doesn't score well. If he does win, it's probably going to be a decision. But $9,000 is not going to be worth it for me, where you could, possibly play his opponent at 7,200 and pay up to get some of those 9,000 plus guys in the end. So give me a fade on Mr. Arce.
Sounds good. Crime in the chat saying, what does salary mean? Can you guys give a quick 10-second explanation? Well, this is DraftKings. I see you're talking about betting. This is not really betting. This is DraftKings. This is an app. It's like daily fantasy sports where you make a lineup with the salaries of 6 fighters. So completely different from betting. That's why we're talking about the salaries there. But we will move on to our favorite dog. I will kick this one off. And there's a couple dogs that really stick out. I guess the one that I do like is going to be Mark Madsen. Olympic wrestler. The guy's wrestling's, top notch. The cardio is not top notch, but I feel like he's going to at least win those first 2 rounds. I feel like the third's going to be very sketchy, but I feel like on those first 2 rounds, he can get a lot of takedowns. Vince Pichel, 25% takedown defense. He's been taken down like a ton in his last several fights. I think Mark Madsen in a win has that wrestling upside, some control time. The only thing I don't like is, shout out to Paul Shaughnessy from the Dogger Pass podcast. He is the Pichel Whisperer, and I had to go take a look to see what he had to say about this fight before our show, and apparently he actually is on the Pichel side, so that scares me off a little bit, but if Madsen does win, I think he scores very well. So I guess that's the only thing, but I think I like Madsen here, 7,800. Monk, how about you? Who are you liking for a dog?
Yeah, I'm on the exact same thing, Mark Madsen here, but actually let me get a bit contrarian if my PC will cooperate. Let me give you the numbers for Mr. Aljamain Sterling, the Funk Master. Probably going to be one of my favorite dogs this week. I mean, not favorite, but I want to get to as many of the 9K guys as possible, which means I'm not going to be able to play at least one of the 9K guys, which means I'm going to play that guy's opponent. So out of those 3, I'm looking at Aljamain Sterling here. He scores 3.57 points a minute. Let me preface this by saying if he wins. I do not think he's going to win this fight, but if he can find a way to win, he scores very well. 3.5 points a minute, 96 points in a win, and he has 5 rounds to do it. I mean, last time he did get pretty worked until the end, but it did go 4 rounds. So, I mean, he didn't look great in any of them except outside the first, maybe. But if he can, maybe he had some magical chip implanted in his neck, making him the $6 million man. Maybe that's the trick to beating Petr on. Maybe that neck really was a problem. I mean, it sounds like an excuse, but the way he talks about it, it seems like it was extremely painful 100% of the time. And it sounds like it's fixed. So give me that very small chance that Sterling can beat Jan, and give me the decent scoring potential of Sterling in a win, 5-round decision or finish. Probably not, but 5-round decision could score pretty well. In 6,900, I mean, that's going to be optimal if he wins no matter what. So give me Sterling as a dog.
Sounds good to me. I'll be talking more about Sterling later on. Weezy, how about you? Who's your favorite dog this week?
Yeah, I like both of what you guys are saying. I have Madsen down on my list here. Definitely has some wrestling and possible finish upside here too. Don't forget that Pichel has been finished in his only 2 losses. They were both by wrestlers, Gregor Gillespie and Rustam Habibov. So Madsen is scoring 3.8 DraftKings points per minute. You combine that with the wrestling and the control time upside, he's a good look here, even though he didn't wrestle in the Guida fight. But in that fight, he still managed to score 71.42 points in a win, which isn't great when you're paying 8,600. But in this case, we're paying like 7,600 for Madsen. Or is it 78?
78.
7,800.
1,400 under his average.
Yep. He's much cheaper now than he used to be. And the thing is about Madsen, you really do feel like if he can wrestle, he can win. And Vince Pichel has a 26% takedown defense, you guys. And this is over a 9-fight UFC sample size here. So he's not easy to hold down, but that's a good thing in DraftKings. You want that guy getting back up so that you can get that mat return for another 5 points over and over again. And Madsen suplexes dudes, just like Rustam Habibov suplexes dudes. And we remember what happened to Vince Pichel in that Habibov fight. So I do like Madsen. I think he can win this fight. I think it's a winnable fight for him. At 7,800, I think it's a good look. So that's going to be my favorite dog of the week. Plus, Mark Madsen is Danish. And we all know the Danes are tough. They're a stoic people. But, man, you're not finishing a Dane ever. You got to basically cut their head off to end them. So yeah, I'm rolling with my Danish brother here, Mark Madsen.
Sounds good. Luke, how about you? What are you liking for a dog?
Yeah, I'm actually going Madsen as well. I am actually picking Pichel to win the fight, but for a lot of the reasons that you brought up, Weezy. I mean, I think he is a solid DraftKings play despite, his lower inside the distance line. He obviously comes from that strong Olympic background. And, Pichel's a tough son of a bitch, but he does only stuff takedowns at 25%. And to your point, the 2 are stronger wrestling archetypes he's fought. He has lost in those fights. But Pichel has also shown that he can work up to the feet. So I think it's a scenario where you can get, kind of like a Colby Covington-esque, mat return type scenario where the guy maybe doesn't, flatten him or control him, but he can land upwards of potentially 10 takedowns or something like that. That might be a little bit on the higher end, but he can still, I think, land, 5, 6, 7 takedowns in this fight. And he's also a guy, you don't really need him to finish to 10x in this spot based on that dynamic with control time, especially against the cage, non-significant strikes. So I think people will look at that Guida fight and where he kind of chose to stand in box, and people are going to be like, why are you going to roster him here? But based on the style dynamic here, I think he's a decent look. At 7.8. Like I said, I don't have a great confidence interval that he wins the fight as a whole, but from a DraftKings perspective, you can't ignore his upside, because if he does win, it's coming from a high volume of takedowns, control, non-significant strikes, and he is going to more than 10x in a W if he does beat Vince Pichel.
Yep, perfectly said. I like it. Looks like we're all mostly on that Madsen side. We'll go to our favorite GPP play here. We'll start with you, Weezy. What are you liking here?
I'm just going to say Khamzat. This guy's numbers are ridiculous. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the numbers that this guy has racked up over a 4-fight sample size. So he's scoring 9.67 DraftKings points a minute. What that means is if this fight were to go to a decision and Khamzat were to score 9.67 DraftKings points per minute, he would score 148 points before the 30-point win bonus. This is a guy who scores almost 180 points in a decision win at the current rate that he is scoring points in the UFC. 9.67 DraftKings points per minute scored, 0.05 DraftKings points allowed per minute. He's absorbed 1 significant strike in 4 fights, and he's landed 112. He's gotten 4 takedowns and accumulated over 4 fights 92.5% control time. This guy is legendary. The stats that this guy has put up is absolutely legendary, and it would be really hard and really not fun to play DFS and leave this guy out of your lineup. So I think just look for the upside, swing for the fences. Khamzat Chimaev is going to be shaving ass on Saturday.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I feel like we all probably have Chimaev, but yeah, I mean, you take a look at his scores. His debut against Phillips, 124, McKee, 122, Mearshart, 127, the Leach, 117. And, Burns is a very big step up of competition, but I feel like stylistically, it's not a great matchup for Burns. I think Chimaev probably runs through him as well, probably in that first round. And 9,400. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play a ton of Chimaev. So I do like that as far as a tournament play, and I will have him in cash as well. Luke, who are you liking for a GPP play?
Yeah, kind of going right with my fight to target, but I'm going Hernandez 8.7. Obviously, second best inside the distance line on slate at roughly 55% implied to finish, and the second best round one prop on the slate as well. As touched on, he's got the capabilities to win this fight via strikes or by sub. Third, he's taken this fight on, or I should say Fremd's taken the fight on short notice. So that gives, him a nice extra boost in terms of a narrative perspective. He's the 8th cheapest fighter on the board, and he has just as much upside as anyone priced above him. So I absolutely love Fluffy Hernandez in GPPs this week to free me up some salary and for his upside.
I like it. Monk, how about you?
Definitely like the Khamzat pick and the Hernandez pick. Can you believe that we're saying, and I'm on there with you, that Khamzat's just going to run through Gilbert Burns? This is going to be an incredible fight, but I will change it up. I will give you the other obvious one, guys. Alexander Volkanovski. He is the most expensive fighter here, but you get what you pay for. Average value of 12.44, 4.08 points per minute, 107 when he wins. His opponents, when he loses, he doesn't have any losses at all. Chan Sung Jung, Korean Zombie, gives up 102.36 when he loses. And he does have 3 losses in the UFC, guys. I think Volkanovski is just getting better and better and better. And I don't think he's slowing down. And I think he's more ready or more driven than ever. To put a stamp on what's been an incredible career, not saying that he's anywhere close to the end, but if he just smashes the Korean Zombie on Saturday, what are we even talking about? He beat Max Holloway clearly once and twice on the books. I just love the numbers from this guy. Let me just get into some quick salary voodoo. The $9,500 salary, while being the most expensive, is the best salary to play on DraftKings. It's been used only 19 times, so not a huge sample size, but it's made the optimal lineup 10 of those times. 84.21 win percentage, and when it wins, it makes the optimal 62.5%. 5 out of every 8 times it's played, when it wins, it makes the optimal. Over 50% regardless, no matter what happens. It's the highest percentages as far as salary voodoo goes that you can possibly play. Now, 6,700 is the complete opposite. It's been used 20 times, has never made the optimal lineup, has a 5% win rate, 5%. And I think that was, who was it? Jason Witt against Rafa Garcia last summer. Whoever Rafa Garcia fought, he was 9,500 and he got beaten up. And that was the only time 6,700 is won.
Grutzmacher.
What's that? Grutzmacher. Yes, thank you. That's the only time. So Grutzmacher is carrying that $6,700 flag, but that's the only time it's ever won. So put me on Volkanovski. The numbers back it up. The salary voodoo backs it up. And I don't see how he loses this fight, guys, and still.
I like it. And that's going to be a nice transition to our next section, which is our favorite cash play. And I'm going with Alexander Volkanovski. He's minus 800 on the money line. He's very good at scoring DraftKings points. He averages over 6 significant strikes per minute. This guy's volume's insane. His cardio is insane. His durability is insane. I think it's obviously a very favorable matchup considering his minus 800, but I just don't see Zombie posing him any problems. I think Zombie's going to have to knock him out, and I just don't think it's all that likely. So I think maybe he can finish the Zombie late. I think he kind of does, but I think if it goes to decision, I think he scores a ton regardless, and I feel really safe with my lineup. So give me Alexander Volkanovski, 9,500. I really like him in cash. Weezy, what do you like it for cash here?
Yeah, same thing. 5-round fight. This guy Volkanovski scores, and this is over a sample size of 10 UFC fights where he's won every single one of them. He's averaging over 4 DraftKings points per minute, 4.09 to be exact. So in a 25-minute fight, that's 100 points right there, even if he doesn't win. So it's over 100 points. So, I mean, like, come on. This is a guy that you have to roster. The volume, the fact that he's minus 800 on the money line, which is telling you the books are telling you he's got an 88% chance to win this fight. And the fact that it goes 5 rounds. So, you know, all the other 11 fights, they're going to have to outscore Alexander Volkanovski in 15 minutes when he's going to have 25. So, yeah, Volkanovski for a cash play is a very easy play to make this week.
Yeah, right there with you. Monk, how about you?
Totally agree, but I just talked about him, so I will give you Mark Madsen. You guys talked him up for other lineups, but I specifically think, you know, he has a good shot for GPP, but I specifically think cash is a great way to play him. Underdog salary at 7,800, 3.8 points a minute, only 90 points when he wins, but that's why he's great for cash. With the takedown upside that he's going to get, that he has over Vince Pichel, I mean, the scoring opportunities are here all day. He only, let's see, in 3 wins, he's put up over 90 twice and over 100 once. And obviously no losses. So he's not given up. He has given up no points in takedowns, control time, reversals, just striking points. And he only allows 1.47 per minute. I'm a big fan of Pichel. Love watching the guy fight. I am super stoked for this fight as a fan. I just think Mark Madsen probably wins the first 2 rounds, and that's probably all he's going to need. I don't think he's going to go 2 fights in a row without attempting a takedown. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see that happening. So give me Mark Madsen for a cash play this week.
Mark Madsen sounds good. And then Luke, how about you? What are you liking for cash?
Yeah, got to go with Volk, 9.5. You know, Weezy touched on it, 80%, 88% to win the fight, is solid in his punches, kicks, can wrestle, elite cardio, durability, can grapple. Obviously, he's shown that he can defensively grapple too in this fight with Ortega. I mean, if Ortega gets into those positions on 99.9% of guys, they get submitted. Alexander Volkanovski did not get submitted from a deep ass mounted guillotine. So he's just an incredibly tough guy to win minutes against. So I think Zombies win equity is very, very front loaded to a KO. It's such a low percentage outcome. Volkanovski's incredibly safe this week, coupled with the fact it being a 5-round fight, you have that.
Did we lose Luke?
I think we finally lost him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he was kind of going in and out a little bit.
Scored 94, 103, and 100. Oh, you guys got me?
Are you there?
I think we have audio now.
You got me?
Yep, we got
you
you
now.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Volk. I'll bounce out and come back in quick.
Sounds good. All right, so we'll move on to our favorite value play. I'll kick this one off. I really like Aljamain Sterling as a value play at 6,900. I don't really think he wins at all, really, but 6,900. I love him for cash. I feel like this fight probably goes 5 rounds or at least very late. And on top of that, Sterling throws a ton of volume. In his DQ win last time against Jan, he scored 99 points. He landed 119 total strikes, was able to get a takedown as well. I think he's going to throw a lot of volume. I think it's going to be very competitive early on. Maybe Sterling even gets a takedown or 2, but I think this probably does go 5 rounds, and I think Sterling has a very good floor. So at 6,900, I love Sterling as a value play. Like I said, more so for cash, but I really like him there. Monk, how about you? Who are you looking for a value play?
I was going to give you Khamzat, but that's pretty obvious. I mean, he's got, you know, the best numbers on the whole card. So let me switch it up and go the opposite way. I'll give you Darian Weeks, $7,000. So we don't know much about him. Only 1 UFC fight. We don't know much about his opponent. Only 1 UFC fight. I mean, if you listen to his opponent, he'll tell you all about himself, but we have yet to see that. So, but check this out. Darian Weeks put up 74.54 points in his loss to Brian Barberena, scoring 4.97 points per minute. He's coming in $800 cheaper than he was against Brian Barberena. And guys, Ian Garry, like I said, we just don't know enough about him. Maybe if this goes to decision, Weeks could easily put up a decent score, even in a loss, scoring 5 points a minute. So give me some Darian Weeks for a possible value play here, just because I don't know much about either guy.
Sounds good to me. Weezy, how about you? Who are you liking for some value?
Yeah, for me, it's Anthony Hernandez this week. I mean, this guy, for all the reasons that I mentioned earlier, he's way cheaper than the top 3, sitting down here at 8,700. You don't have to pay up to 93, 94, or 9,500. The guy brings crazy pressure, volume, grappling, and submission attempts, along with that crazy 4.65 raw DraftKings points per minute. You have a fairly priced, high upside, high volume option against a debuting opponent on fairly short notice here. Yeah, this is a great spot for Hernandez. I think that you really are taking a huge chance if you don't have Hernandez or Fremd in your lineup, simply because I think that fight, I mean, if that fight's not optimal, I am going to be shocked, even with 2 other 5-round fights on this card.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Luke is not here, so we're going to move on to the next section, and then we'll come back to Luke when he does get here. Dart throw. So, yeah, this one was kind of tough. Usually something sticks out. I'll give Aspen Ladd 7,300. Somebody in the chat said it earlier. She's looking good on Instagram and all that, but I do want to see Ladd on the scales. If she does look good on the scales, I might put a little bit more on her in terms of DraftKings goes. But if Ladd can get this fight down to the mat, her crown and pound is very, very good. I feel like people are counting her out because she did look like crap in her last fight against Dumont, but I do think she is a much better fighter than what she showed in that performance. But again, it's the weight cut for me. If it goes well, I think 7,300, could be interesting there. So give me Ladd as far as a dart throw. I don't think anybody's really going to play her. Weezy, how about you? Who are you liking for a dart throw?
So for me, it's going to be the old man, Alexey Oleynik, this week. I think he submits Jared in the first round. Jared has 20% takedown defense thus far in the UFC, and all it takes Alexey is a short period of time to lock something up. Even in the fights that he's lost against Spivak, against Derek Lewis, you find this guy getting very deep on submission attempts and coming very close to tapping some guys. That scarf hold that he gets on people is a master class. And I mean, he submits people with that all the time. He's constantly fishing for that Ezekiel choke. He's incredibly tricky on the ground. He's the definition of a cagey veteran, and Vanderaa is just, I don't know what to think of this guy. His striking's solid. He looked great in the third round against Arlovsky. But, I think if a 43-year-old guy can beat this guy, Vanderaa, then a 44-year-old can do it as well. And especially, I just don't like this matchup for Jared. Bad takedown defense is a really bad thing to have against Alexey. And not only that, Alexey will just drag you to the ground. He doesn't even need to get a takedown. He'll pull guard. He'll get your back standing. This guy is a master of finding submissions. I've even seen him look for standing arm triangles before. So, it doesn't matter. I think Jared's going to have to grapple here, and I don't think he's going to fare well once it gets into the grappling. I'm throwing a dart at Alexey Oleynik and looking for him to carry the torch for Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. One more week. We're on a heater, you guys. I picked Alexey as an even money pick this week because I didn't want to go up to the top to Volkanovski, Chimaev, and those guys that are really big favorites this week. So I'm rolling with Alexey. I'm rolling with the old man.
Let's go. Luke, you can give your value play and then your dart throw.
Cool. Yeah, sorry, boys, going through a bit of a storm in Wisconsin right now. But for my value play, I'm actually going to go Dern at 8.2K, 10th best inside the distance line on the slate, 8th best round one prop. Obviously, highly credentialed submission grappler and a girl that you cannot make small mistakes against. I can see the fact that Torres has not been submitted in her pro career, but if you go back and run through her rap sheet, she just hasn't fought many good submission grapplers and only stuffs takedowns at 58%. It's just kind of one of those scenarios, despite Mackenzie Dern, not being the greatest wrestler in the world. I think it's kind of one takedown is around and most likely the fight. And if she is to do so, I think it comes in the first or second rounds in which she can def 10x in that scenario too. So I think there could be some lower DK rostership to her for her dropping the ball in her last fight to Rodriguez, but she actually also did fight in that fight with the torn meniscus, which I think that needs to be noted. So I don't have any supreme degree of confidence in Dern, but from a value upside perspective, if she is to win this fight, I think she can 100% score 100 points. So that's why I like her as some value. For my dart throw, this will be a fun one. I'm going Tabora at 7.6. I think he's going to be pretty low owned considering he's taken on a guy in Roz who's got that, death touch and one of the best inside the distance on the slate. But Tybura is a pretty good wrestler by heavyweight standards who's pretty consistent to attempt takedowns. In Tybura's last 5 Ws, wrestling has played a big factor in all of those wins, and he scored no worse than 81 points in a decision in that time frame. Raz has decent first level takedown defense, but he's completely lost on bottom. He almost never stands up when he is taken down. Tybura is a BJJ black belt and one of the few guys in relation to some of the guys that have taken Raz down in the past. He's a guy that will actually open up on the ground and look to land wrestling and grappling, wrestler and grappler, in which I think he can score very, very well. At the same time, I think you're getting a lot of leverage on the field because I do think Rosenstrike may be a highly rostered fighter as well. But he's a dart throw nonetheless because he's live to die in all of 2 seconds and score you absolutely nothing. But I don't think you can completely ignore his upside at 7.6.
Yeah, very true. And we haven't talked about that fight much, but I think that fight is a very good one to target. So now, if you guys in the chat have any questions, go ahead and type them in. We have a couple questions that I'll scroll up and get, but type those questions in. And right now we'll talk about how we did. It was 2 weeks ago, and let's see how we did. So in 4th place was Weezy. He had Chimaev, 104 blades. It's all right. 92. Dana Bakkarel, 20 points. Matt Brown, 69. Sarah McMahon, 88. And then Joanne Wood, 19. In 3rd place was Luke with Chimaev, 104. Blades, 92. Borshev, 9.85. Barbara Reina, 96. Max Griffin, 39. Sarah McMahon, 88. In 2nd place was me with Chimaev, 104, Blades, 92, Askarov, 32, Diakasi, 118, McMahon, 88, and then Wood, 19. And then 1st place, we have Monk with Chimaev, 104, Blades, 92, Askarov, 32, Gutierrez, 96, Diakasi, 118, and Joanne Wood. Congrats, Monk. You're killing it, dude.
Listen, guys, some people would come on here and say, oh, look at me. I swept the month of March. Oh, look at me. I've spent the least amount of salary out of everybody. Oh, look at me. I've won. Look, some people would do that. Some people would. Kung Fu Kendrick Lamar said, bitch, be humble. So I am going to listen to my guy, Kendrick, and just say, look, I got lucky last week. I kind of prices righted you out, Brady. I $1 you on your lineup, not on purpose. But somehow Chris Gutierrez pulled out a spinning back fist win. And really, I got to credit Chris Gutierrez for that because without him, I wouldn't be in this position.
Yeah, you had Gutierrez and I had McMahon, and Gutierrez knocked out Dana. I was like, come on, dude.
Both good picks. With that McMahon pick, I was really going back and forth on which one I wanted.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great plays. But we'll go over the standings for the entire year. So we're up to 10 cards. In 4th place, we have Weezy with 4,172. In 3rd place, we have Luke with 4,345.33. In 2nd place, we have me with 4,368.01. And then kind of pulling away here, we have Monk with 4,543.82. Monk, you're kind of pulling away. You need to, step it back a little bit, dude.
Listen, if you're out camping with 3 of your buddies and you're getting chased by a bear, you don't have to beat all of your buddies. You just got to beat the slowest one. So I'm trying to do that and avoid that Petty Pimblett haircut. All right.
Yeah, I don't know what it is at this point. Is it the Pimblett haircut? Is it change your name to Blood Diamond? Want to figure it out?
I stay awake at night wondering what you're going to come up with next week. I just got to avoid this.
It's terrifying. It is terrifying. But let us answer some questions here. I'm going to scroll up. So the first question we have is from Crime, and I will kick this to, let's see. We'll kick it to Weezy first. Excited to see Pereira versus Hansen. Who do you have? I think Pereira will take the dub with the fight IQ plus striking difference. I don't think Hansen's wrestling is a top tier enough to win. So Weezy, who do you have in the Hansen-Rodriguez fight?
So I'm actually leaning Rodriguez for this one. Hansen's wrestling is solid, but she's not a crazy minute winner with the wrestling. And I really do believe that Piero will be the minute winner in the boxing exchanges for this particular fight. I think Hansen is live for a 3rd round submission. I think that's one of the cheekiest bets on this card this week. Hansen round 3, she's finished 4 of her 5 finishes are in the 3rd round, and she also had a fight against Magdalena Sormova where she had her in a deep arm bar and the clock ran out. If she had another 5 seconds in that fight, she would add another 3rd round submission. So I think Hansen by 3rd round submission's a live, like 24-1 bet that you can like throw just a tiny bit of milk money on. But I really do think that Piera Rodriguez is going to win a decision here because, you know, the judges tend to favor the strikers over the grapplers, especially when the grapplers aren't working with a lot of ground and pound. So I'm going to lean Rodriguez.
Sounds good. Monk, this one could be for you. David, what is up, David? I love this slate. So many combos. How do you feel about stacking the title fights? I guess you could talk a little bit about cash and then tournaments as well.
Listen, I'm generally opposed to stacking any fight unless it's a super small card. Like if we get a 10-9 fight card, maybe I would kind of think about that. But let's see, who would we possibly be stacking? Volkanovski and Korean Zombie. I mean, that one, I don't know. That one could go 5. If it does go 5 rounds, Volkanovski Zombie rather probably could do okay in cash. The one thing that would worry me from that perspective is how many times he could get taken down and how many times he's going to have to work off of his back. That does not score you any points whatsoever, and it just eats up your scoring time. The other one would be Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling. Again, a fight I see that could go the distance. That one if you're going to stack, which I'm still opposed to, that would probably be the one I would choose. Like Brady said, both guys scored extremely well in their first fight before the unfortunate ending. So if you really have to stack, go ahead and do that. But again, I'm against that generally.
Yeah, so we'll talk about our lineups pretty soon, but I did stack one of the title fights. See if I have any other questions here. Luke, this one could be for you. Kyle saying a Biggie Boys only play is a first round KO? ?
Who's that? Sorry.
Looks like he just froze.
Oh, Luke's frozen. Weezy then. Weezy, what is Biggie? Is Biggie Boy's only path to victory a KO?
Well, I don't think it's his. I mean, yeah, I think that Biggie Boy's only path to victory is a KO. When he's he has 6 UFC wins, and in those 6 UFC wins, he's gotten a knockdown in every single win, and he's won all of them by KO. Jairzinho is not a minute winner. He just doesn't win minutes. He doesn't throw enough volume. So if this fight goes to decision, you know, there's a chance that he doesn't win, that if it does go the full 15, Tibura's getting takedowns, winning some minutes on the ground. But yeah, I mean, it's not derogatory to say that Jairzinho's only path is a knockout, because that's how he wins fights. The guy's got savage power in his hands. So I think that is his path. And I think it's very possible here, even in the fights where Tibura doesn't get knocked out, he gets hurt, you know, and Jairzinho is the kind of guy who doesn't hurt people. He fucking sleeps them, you know. I mean, when he hits you hard and you go down. Every fight that he's ever had a knockdown in, he's won that fight by knockout. So he's not just knocking people down and then letting them back in fights. When he hits you, you go down and you're done. So, yeah, I think that's his path, and I think it's a very likely scenario.
Sounds good. And Skywalker, he's saying he's here for the ass shaving. You want to quickly talk about your ass shaving?
Yeah, ass shaving of the week. I decided not to go with a big favorite this week because I gave everybody Elias Cobb Kizraev last week because I max bet him at minus 325. So this week I went with Alexey Oleynik, the 44-year-old man, because, like I said, Arlovsky lost to a 43-year-old man, Vanderaa lost to a 43-year-old man in his last fight. Now he's going to lose to a 44-year-old man the next fight. And this one is going to be ended by submission in the first round, I think. Alexey's just really, really good on the ground, and Jared has not shown much of a ground game in the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. Lamar saying which dogs will Aljo outscore in a loss? I think he can outscore a couple in a loss. I think Aljo at that price tag, even though I think he's going to lose this, pretty solid, especially in cash. Anna saying Volkanovski by sub. What are the odds? The odds are plus 1,000 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Monk, have you looked at the stats of women's MMA winners for optimal, often low-owned sneaky plays?
Yeah, and real quick for stacking, definitely not GPP, but in cash, I wouldn't mind, especially if you're trying to get to all the high salaried guys. That's an exception there, but just for cash. Yes, women's MMA, actually women's flyweight. is where it's at, guys. Women's bantamweight, not great. Strawweight, not a great optimal percentage. Women's flyweight makes the optimal 58% of the time. They've had 50 fights since the 1st of January last year. 29 times someone from that weight class has made the optimal. That is the highest percentage out of all weight classes that I track. So higher than heavyweights, middleweights, featherweights, everything. It is women's fly. So if you see women's flyweights on that thing, you better do some extra research because that's where it's at.
Sounds good, Monk. Okay, so we'll give our lineups for this week. We don't have Luke, but we'll get Luke's lineup probably later if he does not come back. But I guess we'll start with you, Weezy. Weezy, what is your lineup for this week? Hopefully,
Okay,
we'll have the same one.
Yeah, like fine wine, I'm in the cellar again. But this week we're going to turn it around, man. We're going to circle these wagons. We're gonna get back out of the cellar here. So it's going to be Alexander Volkanovski, Anthony Hernandez, Jairzinho, Biggie Boy Rosenstruik, the Dane Mark Madsen. We're going with Alexey Oleynik, the old man, and Darian Weeks.
Sounds good. Monk, how about you? What do you got?
We are going Volkanovski, Khamzat Chimaev. This is the one I'm sketchy on, but for now, Ian Garry, Mark Madsen, Daniel Santos, and Aljo Sterling.
Sounds good. For me, I'm getting the 3 studs up top: Volkanovski, Chimaev, Jan. Give me Madsen, give me Sterling, and then give me Weeks. And we will get Luke's probably later in the week. But we'll give our quick picks, and then we'll probably head out of here. I will start up top. Give me Alexander Volkanovski. Co-main event, give me Petr Yan, Khamzat Chimaev, Tecia Torres, Ian Garry, Rosenstruik, Pennington, Malat, Madsen, Oleynik, Hernandez, Rodriguez, and Arce. Weezy, what are your quick picks for this week?
I'm going Volk, Jan, Khamzat, Tecia Torres, Mark Madsen, Ian Garry, Biggie Boy Rosenstruik, Raquel Pennington by decision. I'm going to go with Malat with no confidence. Alexey Oleynik for the ass shaving of the week. Anthony Hernandez, Piero Rodriguez, and Julio Arce.
Sounds good. And then Monk, how about you?
I think I had the same as you, Brady. Maybe we differ on the Torres fight. I have Volkanovski, Jan, Khamzat, Dern, Garry, Tybura, Pennington, Malat, again with no confidence, Mark Madsen, Alexey Oleynik, Anthony Hernandez, Piero Rodriguez, and Julio Arce.
Sounds good. Luke's quick picks. We don't know, but he will be on the Club and Sub podcast tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern time. I believe Paul Shaughnessy is going to be on there as well, along with John Stargarian and Lag. So go check out the Club and Sub tonight at 10 and to hear, Luke's final picks there. So I do want to bring up the promo code for Prize Picks. Check it out, Pub Sports. We'll talk more about Prize Picks probably in the near future. Go to Prize Picks, sign up using promo code Pub Sports, get a deposit bonus there. Other than that, Weezy, where can they find you? What do you have going on throughout the week? I know you have a show tonight, and then we're doing a brand new show tomorrow that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. I'll be going live tonight after the Club and Sub podcast because I'm going to be kicking back on my couch watching that tonight. 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern for an episode of Ask Weezy. I'll bust out my database of stats, and you guys can ask me any questions about anybody in there. And I'm also going to be giving you guys a look into something that I've created called the prop template. And what the prop template is going to do, it's going to convert betting lines into implied probabilities, and then we're going to compare those implied probabilities against the fighter stats in wins, in losses, in combined wins and losses, and compare it back against those implied probabilities to find value in the over and under betting lines. The fight goes, the fight doesn't go, the over 2.5, the under 2.5, the over 1.5, the under 1.5. And I'm going to show you guys that template. It's really cool, and it's going to be something I'm going to be using going forward in order to make some really good bets, hopefully in these places where the bookies make mistakes and give us more value than they should. So I'm going to be doing that tonight after the Club and Sub podcast. And then we're going to be doing our new prop show tomorrow night on the MMA Engine channel. Check that out. We will be sending out a time and everything later on.
Sounds good. We're still working on a name for it. Maybe it'll come to me tonight. I'll tell you one thing. It's not going to be the crop top prop drop, your one-stop prop shop. Shout out to Eric Betts Fights.
We are using that thumbnail though, right?
Oh, the thumbnail is a must.
Okay.
A must. Monk, where can they find you? What do you have going on throughout the week? I think you're muted, though.
Shit, I thought I unmuted. I was saying I got to get my abs out there, baby. Let's go. No, you can find me on the Monk Maddox channel, spelled just like it is underneath my right in my beard. Find me on YouTube. I just put out a game theory video on Tuesday where I break down all 13 fights from a DraftKings perspective, very stat heavy, and I kind of give you leans and how I'm rostering each fighter. Also, be sure to check out MMA Engine, guys, like this video and subscribe to that channel over there, MMA Engine, that Weezy mentioned before. You won't miss anything that we're putting out, which at this point is basically daily content. I just released my salary voodoo video this morning, where I talk about 3 fighters coming up on the UFC 3 fights rather coming up on the UFC 273 card. So take in all that content. Be sure to like and subscribe to those channels, and guys, follow me on Twitter at Monk Maddox. And let's have a banger of a weekend, man. We got some great fights this weekend, 2 title fights, and a people's main event that should absolutely be stellar. Let's go.
Sounds good. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers, YouTube, DFS by the numbers, and also on the MMA Engine. Like Weezy said, we're going to be going live. Not quite sure on the time tomorrow. Me and Weezy are going to talk through it, but we'll be going live on the MMA Engine channel tomorrow, talking some probabilities, talking some over-under, some fight goes or doesn't go, which I love betting those props. So it's going to be a very fun show for me, for Weezy, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to like it as well. So make sure you tune into the MMA Engine to check out that new show tomorrow. So that's about it, guys. Leave a like on your way out, subscribe, all the good stuff. We'll talk to you very soon. Good luck for UFC 273. Let's make some money, guys.